Hello and welcome to Conscious Living, which airs every Wednesday at 6 p.m. in Vancouver on 100.5 CFRO FM in Vancouver Co-op Radio. My name is Marc Caron, and today I'm really happy to introduce some guests of ours that have been on the show before, and I'd like to consider them some good friends. I've met them. Geez, must have been 2014, maybe 2015, on my journey through oneness and some awakenings through some ancient Indian meditations at the Center of Peace in Vancouver. And I'm really happy to have them on the program again. Today, we're talking about their work with cacao, breath work, meditation. And for many of you out there probably already know Kathy and Paul Scott. So let's bring them in now, and we'll just start having our conversation. Kathy and Paul, great to see you as always. Welcome to the program, or shall I say, welcome back to the program.
I was wondering about when was it the last time that we were in the studio with you downtown Vancouver? And I think it might have been the last time we were promoting the Planetarium Cacao Journey in Vancouver.
It very well may have been. Tasha was with us then, and those days were quite some time ago in the studio downtown. And since the pandemic, they had of course, locked down the studio. Technology changed, allows us to do these great pre-records and have some opportunities to certainly be a lot more flexible, which is certainly up my alley because we can reach global in a much different way. And it's just always a pleasure to speak with you folks because I love your energy, I love your work, and I will say in the times we've met and conversed and had experiences, we've had a lot of great laughs as well. So, I just love kindred spirits. And I remember meeting you for the first time. Paul had the, free hugs T-shirt, and he was out there. We were doing a oneness meditation at the Center of Peace down on Burrard and 16th. And I remember meeting you on that occasion. And then over the course of time and life, we've got to do many different things together and have these great conversations, because I know you guys do a lot of great work with quantum touch, cacao, meditation. You're community builders, just pillars of the conscious community here in Vancouver. So, it's just always a pleasure to have you on the program and talk about what's going on with you now, because you are doing another planetarium event with Shine and Crystal from Unite, and we're going to talk about that. But let's maybe, for people who don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself and what it is, who you are, what you do, because I know you've got a great and colorful history of great work in the conscious field, and maybe sometimes in the unconscious field.
Yeah. The unconscious got us into the conscious.
Well, it's a journey, right, guys? It's a journey, and that's.
When does the process ever end, right? I'm in another process. Well, when am I not?
Yeah. I'd like to think the process actually never ends. Just as you think you're there, something else comes up. So tell us about yourself, how you got into this line of work and what you're passionate about, and then we'll dive into the power of cacao, breath, and meditation.
I think Paul got consciously into this kind of work. I think, we're all in it, right? And, we make a conscious choice to start doing little things that start leading us into the deeper stuff that we can either say, oh, that's enough, or keep going. But I think Paul started his journey long before I did, consciously. So why don't you talk a bit about your history and
how you
got to be
God.
Paul Scott.
Okay. Well, welcome. Thank you, Marc, for having us here. We really appreciate you and Conscious Living Radio, everything you guys are doing. It's amazing. You're getting the word out, and that's an awesome thing.
And you're having fun.
And you're having fun too. Yeah. And you guys are also a pillar of our community, obviously. And you've helped a lot and supported a lot of people, and really appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, your devotion, Marc, yours in particular, your loyalty to this process that we're all in, and your relationship with Andrew over the years. And we've all watched each other do the stuff, right, and get where we get to the point where we know we're nowhere, we're just going somewhere, and that's the deal,
Well,
right?
what do they say? Life's a journey, not a destination.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
as good old John would say, life is what happens while making other plans.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And, we could talk a little bit about that as people go on their journeys as we go through
Absolutely.
our journey here today.
Yeah.
But Paul, tell us about yourself, because I know you've got a lot of great experience and a big heart. So tell us where that all started with you.
Well, I was raised in a small community, and so community's always been super important to me. And it just I think without community, we're missing a big piece in our life, you know, and it's so important. And I think that's just been a part of me from day one, community. And anyway, I was raised in a small community, and I have a background. I mean, really, I think my journey is mostly hard knocks in life, really, and then those hard knocks, through I'm 33 years sober, and my family background on my father's side, they're all alcoholics, and so there was a lot to work through and move through when I was younger, and got into alcohol at a pretty young age and really lost control pretty quick. And funny enough, what saved my life, I think, was LSD. You know, it saved my life because back then, this is in the early 70s, they were massive doses. They were heroes doses, right? It's straight. We used to call it straight jacket journey, but and it was amazing. I was like, I remembered. I remembered who I was. I was like, oh my God, I am one with everything. And it saved my life. It brought me into a different reality from the one I was experiencing at the time, which was very painful. And then grade 11 and 12, from that experience, I decided to go celibate, do yoga, get into meditation. I was into martial arts, weight training, into nature. And, those 2 years of my life were just dedicated to, I didn't do any more medicines after that. I wasn't drinking, I wasn't smoking, I wasn't doing anything. I just wanted to live the truth that I had experienced and on the LSD. And I thought, no, I want to be and live this. I want to integrate it. And so I really got into practices. And, when I was 18, I did have that direct experience of what I was experiencing on LSD and the unity of that experience and a deeper sense of who we really are, who we all really are, beyond just the body in time and space. And the love that was there was so profound, it was so profound, and it just connected me. And so that experience really, really brought me forward. And I also had a very powerful mystical Christian experience too. And I was very happy that I had a nice balance of East and West. I had got into yoga and Buddhism and what a lot of the thinkers out there, Krishnamurti and Yogananda Paramahansa, and I was just eating it all up, And then so when I had that more direct experience of union with what I would call the divine or the creator love, and to know that that is there and is a reality, and to connect into that, and really from there on in, that everything changed in my life and became about that deepening that journey, and then eventually, I sobered up. Sobered up.
You went back to drinking.
I went back to drinking for a while for some weird reason. It was weird. It was like, I thought, why am I doing this again? Why am I going? I never went as bad as I was the first time, right?
Right.
But I went back into it, but I was a lot more aware of what was happening. And so, yeah, through that whole experience, I had a life illness that almost took me out, Epstein-Barr, for 5 years. And so I had a lot going on in my life at that time. I was health struggles, and I found my way to naturopath. I found Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life, when she used to come to Vancouver. And I did work with her around trauma and how it's related to what we're physically and emotionally experiencing. And that opened me up. And then I was able to get my health back and start a whole new way of living. I changed careers. I've had a lot of careers. From marine engineer to real estate salesperson to logger to construction worker to uh, dance teacher to, I had a lot of fun doing a lot of things. So I enjoyed a lot. But eventually I really
Bouncer,
did.
prison guard.
Yeah, prison guard, bouncer,
You used
yeah.
to be a badass.
Yeah, it's pretty badass. But
Not a
I
man.
always had a good heart, I always had a good heart.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it just put me into a whole new direction. So I started looking at everything, and I let go of my career, and I became a transpersonal counselor and got into teaching energy work and different modalities, lots of different modalities. So I really was very interested in how we could help others and share what I had gone through, knowing how the depth of that kind of suffering and pain, and just having this sort of sense of, Jesus, if I can help people connect to the source within them, and see the value in the suffering and the pain that everyone goes through, right? We all have our stories, and and to know that they're all there to teach and grow us. So that's basically, yeah. And then I met Kath, and one of the best things that ever happened to me 19 years ago. And we're on the same path. We're metaphysical ministers. We have a healing practice, a healing community. This is our life. And I feel very blessed and grateful. Yeah.
We became metaphysical ministers to be able to marry people legally in our area. And I'll tell you, doing those weddings, Paul and I do them together. So I'm right there for the bride, and he's right there for the groom, and we're standing in opposite, so that they never have to take their eyes off each other to connect with their minister, their officiant. And it's just such an incredible experience when people are coming into a place where they want to make this commitment in a way that we really love to feel the sacred, divine masculine, divine feminine, which is what we've had to cultivate as we came out of, our childhoods and our first marriages, where, nobody's to blame. It's just, we were all so wounded. And how do you get to an authentic relationship and to actually be eye to eye, toe to toe, and really stay in the room? We're fully into monogamy. We don't matter. It doesn't matter what people choose. It's just our path, right? And we've discovered that that's like hardcore for us. Like, it's like, wow, it's what we want, but we want it in total love. And we can, so we're constantly dealing with the dark pieces of ourselves that come up through the programs, through the loops, through the things that have happened to us and made us, less than loving. And, how do we find the love? How do we get past our conditioning? And it's been, that's one of the greatest joys about being a minister. We're marrying a couple, another cacao couple, you might call them, who came to our journeys in our own personal journeys for a long time, through the love of cacao and the process that we go through in this meditation. And now they're fully on their own, doing some stuff and, getting their own cacao and figuring out how they want to be in this. And we're marrying them on the 24th of August, Kat and John. I don't think they'd mind us saying that.
Beautiful.
Yeah, to just like announce that to the collective.
Well, one thing, I love your energy and the way you guys always show up every time I've had the opportunity to be in your presence. And I could just imagine, how fun those weddings would be, because of your lightheartedness, your openness, your flexibility, your acceptance of people. So that's a beautiful story. And it's one thing I'm not sure I knew about you two. I know you do a lot of great work. So, where to begin. There's so much to unpack there. I feel like we just kind of opened up a opportunity for a series of shows because there's so much there to cover in 50 minutes.
Well, under it all, Mark, honestly, what we've come to understand without realizing that that was actually going to be our journey is sacred relationship. And it's ours, like we got married on the beach in Maui, and our vows were that we would offer this relationship to ourselves for growth and to our community, for just to hold space for that, for others as well. And not that we're doing it better or anything, we're just doing it. And we're natural teacher people, who like to share, hey, you know what I found out?
Well, and that's, I think, part of the, the contagion of a good life. It's, when you discover things and you're excited about things, it's kind of transferable as we relate with people, and relationships are so important in our lives, whether they're, romantic or otherwise, because when your relationships are good, life is good. When they're great, they're great. But when they're bad, and things aren't going very well, and that could be friends and romantic partners, whatever that is, it kind of carries over into our lives in many ways. So it's, I think, really important to, discover and learn how to navigate that, because as you say, we have good days, we have bad days, but it's that awareness, that conscious awareness, and how we show up, and then open communication, where if people aren't talking, if people aren't doing the work, and, taking that kind of self-examination for their own self-realization, then relationships can be very challenging. And I know it's that one thing they say, oh, well, you think you're enlightened and all conscious, go spend a week with your family, and you get triggered because there's things we don't know, or we think we're great, but environment can definitely, trigger some things, right?
That's such a good point too, Mark, because we've also done a lot of work with constellation therapy, right? And family system dynamics. They'll talk a lot about, in constellation work, that the fast track to growth, and as you said, to get an understanding of where you're at, is just go spend some time with your family, and
or get into a relationship.
Yeah.
Those two are pretty, they are these incredible mirrors to show us. They're great opportunities too, right? But in constellation, one of the things they'll say is if you can go into a relationship dynamic or a family system and be different while they're all being the same, that is the fast track to growth in your life, because it just is. It fast tracks you. So yeah, super valuable, but it depends on the attitude and how you're looking at it. As either an opportunity to grow phenomenally, or a pain in the ass that you want to get away from, right?
Absolutely. Well, and one thing I think is interesting, and because we have that common connection through oneness, and
I was about to mention this.
Oneness Blessing changed my life. 2007, Tony Robbins event. Who would have thought? I thought he was doing some hocus pocus with lights in the room, but he brought the Chakra Dhyana, of which you know well. Completely changed my life, and I fell in love with ancient India and a lot of the teachings of the yogis. I read a lot of the ancient texts and things, and it was all about that self-realization, to be able to step back and become the observer, and then being able to influence and control our behavior, and then based on what we want, how we show up, versus always reacting. And that quote that when you're conscious, you respond. When you're unconscious, you react. And how many of us in today's world are so reactionary, because we're not living a life based on what, consciously choosing and knowing what we value, what we believe, why we value and believe these things, and then how we show up in the world. And I think that it's it's whatever path people want to take. I think it's just important that they take a path of some sort of self growth, personal growth and development, so that we can understand ourselves. When we understand ourselves, it helps us understand others even better, and then how we want to show up, right?
Well, when you mentioned oneness at the beginning, and then when Paul talked about family constellation, what was starting to, really come up was what Bhagavan always says is the whole world is a family, right?
Mm.
And that's so like that just keeps rolling through. And so when in constellation, they talk about the integrity of the relationship between the parents, whether they're together, whatever configuration it is going to inform the emotional security of the family, of children, of relatives, of community around that family, because we all collect our tribe as we grow into a family. And it's like when the whole world is a family, you start to realize it's okay. So when in our relationship, I think what really got, like, when Paul came into my life, my daughter was, like just about 15. And it was sort of like, so I was this, I came to understand that my main archetype in life is mother, and that if I fully embody mother, I will allow at least one person on the planet the opportunity to understand what it is to be daughter, to be child, to be family, right? And you understand your place. And if you have security in the dynamics of the pillars of the mother, father, the king, queen, the grandma, grandpa, the old archetypes of holding that space, which is really everybody's trying to redefine that right now. But if you get back into what is your basic thing, and I knew that if I could fully archetypically live mother, I would be fully informed as to wife, that queen, lover, and it's like everybody is their own sovereignty in their own being. And to get my crown on straight and to call out my king and to say, I stand beside you, I'm here to be in relationship. I want to know how to be the best woman that this woman came here as, to embody. And I know that in my configuration, my highest is to be in relationship. And I'm calling you forward. I'm calling you to stand with me. I'm calling myself to be in this with you. And that is my greatest opportunity to be the best mother, friend, sister, sister to you, Mark. I mean, like our relationship has grown so much, and like we have the best laughs. You and Michael Krause and I have this similar thread of humor, and it's just a like something, a string that gets plucked, right?
Yeah.
To be able to be in that and to be fully safe in that with my brothers, because we're all here energetically holding that, the full breath of like, who am I? How am I here for you? How do you need to be loved? How can I offer that in integrity as his queen and as your sister and as the mother, the daughter, the sister, all of it? It's just like, it's so good. It's like this is what I breathe for. This is what I do my practice for, my energy work. And it's like, did I have a plan? No. Like Paul, he planned stuff. Like we were discussing the other day, like he had a plan for his life. Everything that has happened to me has only ever happened to me. Like I just move on into something and float off, and something will happen, and I'll have a massive career over here and it'll die suddenly, and then it'll be over here, and it's like, what the
Yeah. Well, I think you said a lot there, Kathy, that I think is really powerful. And one thing is, about the planning, and Stephen Gray and I, my partner in Spirit Plant Medicine, we have a saying, and he brings it in from his Buddhist teachings, is, we follow the golden thread. And sometimes what we think we want, or, and, this is a great question for anybody out there watching, is like, have you ever thought you really wanted something and you plan it and you go do it, and then you get there and it's like, you're like, really, is this all there really is? I'm not sure I really want this anymore, but to me, that's part of the journey, because it's what we learn in that path as we go to it. And if you'd have asked me 10 years ago where I was going to be, I would have had some, crazy, grandiose plans that aren't exactly where I am today. However, it's following the golden thread. And that's, a big part of what you mentioned about was community. And, I work hard to not take life too seriously and to have fun in the way because, it could be cut short at any time for anyone. And I like to laugh. I like to have fun. And when you talk about breath, and this is something we'll get into because of the work you're doing at the planetarium in a few weeks. This breath is so important, but when you laugh, it changes the way you breathe too, right? And so many of us just don't breathe properly in today's world. We're so busy being busy. We're all breathing way up top in our chest instead of deep diaphragmatic yogic breathing and things like that. So it's such a powerful tool, breath and flexibility, as we follow the golden, as we say, following the golden path. And it's a joy. So let's kind of shift gears a little bit because I really want to talk about the work you're doing with cacao, with breath and meditation, how you've combined them all. And of course, as many people know through Conscious Living Network, one of the things we do is a Spirit Plant Medicine Conference. We're big proponents of teaching people about the power of plants, and psychedelics primarily is the theme. However, I believe all plants are medicine. And cacao is a medicine that you folks use quite prominently and quite successfully to create change for that. And, I don't see cacao as a psychedelic by any stretch, but if you look at the history of it, it's a very, very powerful plant medicine. So maybe you can talk a little bit about, the power of and what cacao is, what it does, why it's so important, and then we'll kind of navigate how you weave breath and meditation in, because I also want to talk to you about this 12 chakra thing versus the 7 chakra thing too. I believe there's 128 different chakras, but let's kind of go down that path a little bit and enlighten, hopefully share something with our viewers that they, make them go, something to think about.
Yeah, well, cacao came into our life towards the end of 2010, and like oneness, we became involved in oneness around. We did an annual retreat in Vancouver called Living Vision, 100 people, 20 facilitators, 80 participants, and we just rocked a couple of days on a weekend in September over the equinox, and oneness came out of that in some ways, because I was looking. I'd never done anything like it and Paul had done it a few times previously, and I was so like I was just on fire, and I went on the internet searching for what can we do next year. Like I was just so excited, and I found somebody doing something called Diksha. And that's where the foundation of our Anahata meditation is the 7 chakra dhyana. And we just took it and expanded it into the 12 chakras of quantum touch. And we started being instructors for that in 2011, shortly after we found cacao. So when we got the cacao into our lives, we automatically paired it with chakra dhyana. And then we started teaching quantum touch workshops. And at the time we were renting spaces. And so we would have the Saturday night between the 2 days to fill, and we'd do chakra dhyana with cacao. And it just became like such a powerful process that it was like unimaginable. And like the first cacao journey I went to, it was a goddess circle, right? And it's like I'm a kind of a hermit person. I don't go out much, and so and I'm kind of shy in some weird way. And goddess circles were always very intimidating to me in some way. I just didn't want to be hanging out with a bunch of women trying to be goddesses. It just kind of blew my mind. And but there was something. Ella Resmer, actually Andrew's first partner, she was like, Kathy, you got to come to this one. We got breath work and cacao. And I was like, okay, something about the whole cacao thing. And so I came to this goddess circle, and I was aggravated. I got lost. It was raining, like Vancouver can rain in October and in November. And I thought this was expensive for a cup of hot chocolate. And the place was cold. Like everything to aggravate me was on. And I sat down and there was a friend beside me who I didn't expect to see. And we were like, this better be good, right? And really, and then we drank the cacao. And it was like, what is going on? Like the transformation and like the setup of like to be in this thrilling sort of, typical thing that a person can fall into when they're, having a grumpy day, to be transformed within moments was like, for us, like we were looking at each other like, what is going on? And then I laid down and to do the breath work. It was lying down breath work as opposed to Chakra Dhyana is done sitting up. And I enjoy lying down breath work. I just prefer the structure of something where it's like a little more active. Like, the Wim Hofs have got it going on because they love the structure. It's really good. You're not left to lie down in a pile of blankets and scream, right? To loud music. It's just really structured and safe, and you can pick it up and leave it and all of those things. And so that I just, the next is like, is there going to be another one? And so the next one was a co-ed kind of thing. There were men and women. It was like, Paul, you got to come. And so we just fell in love with cacao. And we just knew it was like right then, it was just an automatic thing. So it just became, how can we keep doing this? How can we make this experience better? And it's just for others to really transform. And that started on New Year's Day, 2011. So we've been doing cacao journeys almost monthly since then. That's like over 13 years. So it's to us, it's just this, I don't know, a natural, we breathe there. It's like our space. It's like the place where we go for our sweet spot, where we're nourished as well by setting up space to nourish community in something that it's like we're there for our own process. We do this for us first, really, in some way. And it's magical. It's like it's beyond the components. Would you say? I just went on a ramble there and I'm like,
he's just being the strong, silent type holding space there.
I'm always, I'm highly entertained by Kathy. I got to tell you, I get to live my life with this highly entertaining, passionate,
thank you,
loving lady. Yeah, so I can.
Well, you're a lucky man, Paul. So one of the things I love about cacao is, it's kind of it's safe in the sense, when people start talking plant medicines and psychedelics and mushrooms, ayahuasca, even LSD, as you were talking, Paul, earlier in your journey, it's a safe, more, not to mention legal, and it has that ability to open up the heart and shift our physiology. And I think that that's one of the important things is, we get so stuck in the Western world in our day to day on that hamster wheel that plant medicines have a way of shifting us out of that and opening up other areas because it affects our biochemistry. It changes our DNA and different expressions, so that we can be more present, more loving, more understanding, more caring. And then when you mix it with these, with meditation and breath work, because like breath work is so powerful. I can't stress enough the importance to anybody watching. If you haven't done any kind of breath work and consciously looked at your breathing, that it's a really important aspect of life, because it's the one thing in life we can't live with for the shortest amount of time.
Yeah.
Right? Yet we don't breathe properly.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's crazy what, just modulating and becoming aware of the breath can do, right? It's like you say, it's such powerful medicine. And when you combine the medicine of breath, right, with the medicine of the most powerful medicine, I think, on the planet is our own heart and what's in it, so it's every medicine is just leading us there, right? Every medicine leads us home. And each one is a teacher, and each one is valuable, and each one you'll be called to. And so the cacao, what I find interesting about cacao is how it's been coming out just only in the last, 15, 20 years, right? As a ceremonial medicine, because the Mayans brought it through, right? And their culture was wiped out, and all the knowledge of cacao went with it, because they used it extensively. They know that by archaeology digs, and they see the cacao in ceremonial cups, and obviously they mixed it with other things, mushrooms, maybe they found a mushroom down there that has DMT in it, and I think so. We know, and then there's also another weird kind of warrior history with it, but we're without going down that route, it's was a most revered medicine in South America, was cacao. And they would travel 1,600 miles to go get it, and it was so valuable, it was a currency to them. One cacao bean could buy you a lot, and so they had a very, very sacred relationship with it, and ceremonial. And then it all gets lost. And it's interesting how it's coming out at this time that we're moving into Aquarius, and the whole planetary consciousness is shifting in a huge way. And the mother is coming out with this beautiful heart opening, very gentle medicine, but deceptively powerful. Deceptively powerful, because it all lies in the heart, and the breath brings us home, right? The breath is life, which is spirit, which brings us home. The heart is open, and all of the things combine to just helping that golden thread, right? The golden thread, the pathway in to who we are in truth, to be experienced directly, and that's what medicines are for, and to help us integrate and bring that into our life, not to become a lifestyle, but just and if it does that, but basically it is to lead us home. So yeah, I mean, it's crazy powerful medicine.
Yeah, and to address what Mark is referring to as well, like the composition of cacao, right? So when you look at any of the medicines, like let's just take DMT, amio-5, what it does to the body is it's an enzyme inhibitor, that it blocks a certain enzyme function in the body. This is my only I'm not an expert. This is what my daughter told me when I was like, what's happening to me? And she says, it's an enzyme inhibitor, Mom. And what happens is, like, when that happens, when that enzyme gets starved from the body, the mind opens up to other chemical, and so then you're opened up spatially to something else, right? So when cacao comes into the body, it has vasodilators. That's why they call it a heart opening medicine, because it literally expands it dilates the heart. The passageway of the blood through the heart is now expedited. And it also has anandamides and theobromides, which are things that trigger the release of a chemical in the glands of the brain that make a happy feeling, that bring that heart and mind together so that you drop into the heart, which is why we call the meditation Anahata, because that's the Sanskrit name for the heart chakra. And so it's all about going into the heart, the field of the heart and the body. So then when you put the breath in to what because with cacao, you're so cognizant still, even though your heart is literally opening, and you're being flooded with I went from irritable to in a loving state of I wasn't even upset with myself for being irritable anymore. And that's what it can do. And then when you add the breath in, now you're going in on a cellular level, and you're just scrubbing away that stuff. You're going to loosen stuff up. You're going to loosen some bliss up. You're going to loosen some of your shadow. And hopefully, you're ready for whatever happens. And that's what, I was taught about the cacao, because once we got that information about how much we loved cacao, I scoured the internet, and the only person I could find talking about it was Keith Wilson down in Guatemala.
Wow.
He's got his own brand. He's passed away, and he was a beautiful man. But I bought my cacao from him for 2 years. He sent me basically his whole course in an email. And we corresponded over, email, Skype, and stuff like that back in 2010. And so, he just basically said, this is what it is. And this is what I'm trying to do, is bring cacao ceremony out into the world. And I got my cacao from him for a couple of years. It would arrive from Guatemala in a box with stamps all over it. Corners wore off, oozing cacao dust. And then when we went to India and Bali for that year, when I came back, there was cacao had bloomed. Like it had really started to take some traction. And in a lot of respect goes to Keith for actually paving the way for the marriage between cacao and the rest of the world in that therapeutic process, because he lived down in Guatemala. He grew his cacao from, I mean, he's revered. We sat through his Zoom memorial, and it went for 8 hours because people
Wow.
couldn't stop talking. And he was a tough teacher, because and he always said, cacao will open the door for you. It won't kick you through. It's your choice, but it will open this door to your heart. And and apparently if you went down there to, like you got Keith, if you were standing on the threshold, he'd give you a shove at the back. And cacao brought you there, and he's there to give you that push. And we feel like in our own way we've curated a field of our own around this meditation, because it's consistent. It's always the same. It's the same meditation. It's the same process. And yet people have done it 60, 70 times with us in our home, in some place, and at the planetarium and things like that. And they have a different experience every time because they bring themselves to it differently every time. The medicine comes in differently. They're in a different process with the meditation, but the meditation is always there to just, to go in and out of. And we always say to people, it's a guide. It's a guide. The cacao is a guide. The meditation is a guide. What you're looking for is that point of stillness when all of it converges for a moment, and you lose that sense of being that separate self, and you get that still point where you are so separate because you're so single pointed, you can feel it. And yet it's the unity as well of everything around you that holds you, that holds the stillness for you to feel that. And we say, when you get to that place, stay there. Doesn't matter what the meditation is doing. Everybody else is still breathing. It's like Yogi Bhajan said, we love the Kundalini yoga too. Keep up and you'll be kept up. And everybody around you will be breathing and going through the process, and just sit in that field, because that stillness field is informing all of them too. And that's the thing that happens as we go deeper and deeper into the breath over and over and over. And, it's like breath work for beginners, breath work for people who've gone to India to get this experience. And that's when you were talking about the 12 chakras. They come out of quantum touch, which we started to teach right after we found cacao. And because we'd been looking for years for what we wanted to bring forward. And in quantum touch, it's the 12 chakra system, and it's all using your breath, right? So we're like, wow, this is just like so good. And so when we recorded the meditation, and we went from the 7 to the 12, because at the time we were new instructors, and we wanted to give people an experience of what they'd be learning in the 12 chakra system, right? And so it's the seventh body, but the eighth is below your feet. It's the realm of manifestation. And so when we're in this meditation and we activate all the chakras of the body with the cacao going through, and the breath and the collective and the whole field, then we go into that eighth chakra where this is the dimension in which we manifest. This is where we actually bring the realm of possibilities from the ninth chakra through the body. And now we're doing it here. And that's when you see your whole intention start to flow out of you. That's the golden thread that you and Stephen like so much.
Beautiful. Well, there's a couple of things you said there, and one is where you're talking about Keith, and it'll take you to the door but not necessarily push you through. And that's like any plant medicine or any kind of self-development work, is you can be right there, but you have to step through into the other side, and part of that's integration and trusting and letting go, so that new possibilities can present themselves and create and manifest. And I think that that's a really important lesson for people to be aware of. And when they're doing any kind of medicine work or personal growth work, is to step through that door, right?
Mhm.
Because everything you're looking for is through that door, and then maybe another door. And the doors, in my experience, the doors don't ever end. There's always another one as we go on the journey, right? And as we, um, do this work, it's just so important to be open. And you talk about community and connection and breath. And this is the thing that I think is really powerful. You're working with Shine and Crystal of Unite. They do a lot of great events with speed healers so people can get a taste of different healing modalities in a short order without necessarily a commitment right away. And they're going to bring that to the planetarium as well, because, and this is something we talked about earlier, where experience is the best teacher. We can talk all we want about cacao and breathwork and psychedelics to personal growth to reading a book to whatever that is. But it's when you have that experience that we can then take and move forward. And it's some kind of a slogan that we come up with Conscious Living Network over the years is, we like to do things that are educational, experiential, and transformational, because you can learn all you want. You can read all the books, you can watch all the videos, you can do all of that, and you can know stuff. But it's when we take what we know and experience those things that we have kind of absorbed into our psyche or our intelligence or whatever that is, we have an experience. Now it's like, oh, wow, that light bulb goes off. But what are you going to do with it? Are you just going to go, wow, that was cool, and carry on your life? Or are you going to take that and transform your life and make the changes that you most likely desire? Maybe you didn't in the beginning, but it's that integrating. How do we integrate that into our lives? And the dangerous part of this, a lot of the medicine work and the things I've learned over the years is people will go in, they'll do it, and then all of a sudden Monday comes along and they're back to their same old. They're not applying that great experience to their lives in a way that creates transformation, not just for themselves, but for that of others. And I think, with what you do, you provide that experience. And being in the planetarium, that's going to be a pretty unique venue for what you're doing. Maybe you can, we've got about 5 minutes left, but maybe you can talk a little bit about, the difference of doing something like that in the planetarium, because I imagine it's going to be a laser light show and things like that as well that go with it.
Yeah. 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 When we did it last time, it was awesome. So we've got our good friend Jerry Devoyne, and he'll bring Duncan Hogg with him. Sound Current.
Sorry, Jerry, for the first time we met years ago on Conscious Living Radio. I had no idea. I must apologize.
You know what? It was a convergence of stressful days for everybody. And it was just so beautiful anyway.
Yeah. It's funny, when I was in elementary school, some of my best friends were the ones I fought with, and we became buddies. It's funny how that works. Anyway, so Jerry's a master in the sound current, so that's really cool. He's a master in being in the current and being in that expansive state and really supporting that for people. So to have the medicine opening us and then coming in and having the support of the sound current and Jerry and the music and then the whole universal experience in there is amazing. And there's also 230 people, right? So it forms a morphic field that's very powerful, and it's super entertaining in the sense that, when you go into the meditation and the cacao's doing its magic, and then you've gone very deep in, and then because it's a inner gazing journey, really, to understand what's going on in the heart. It's a journey to the heart, right? And so when you're expanded and open, and then you see the universe both within yourself and without yourself, right? It's like it's a awesome experience for people. And so the combination of that whole thing together is pretty magical, isn't it, Kat?
Mhm.
A lot of people still, years later go, man, that was crazy, that experience. That really shifted things for me. And just quickly, what I wanted to put in there is what I think so beautiful about the cacao and going into the field, with your heart open. All the information we need is in the field. All the information is in the field. So this is designed to help people access the field, the quantum field of all possibility. When your heart's open, you're receiving that
It's not
information,
just an
right?
experience.
No, it's coming in and informing you about where you're at in your life and what needs to happen for you to live more on purpose and be, happy in your life. And then you're downloading it into your energetic system. And then people will say, yeah, the experience is amazing, you guys, but I'll tell you what, really why we keep coming back is the changes we see in our life after. That's why people come back.
That's the truth.
And, real quick, being a breathwork instructor from years back, we had a sort of, we used to go at it hard, and sometimes people would get re-traumatized. We meant well, but it was a catalytic experience. And now they're understanding trauma differently and the nervous system differently. And they're realizing that you need to resource yourself in a more gentle way without re-traumatizing. And this is what it does. It helps you to resource what you need in a much more gentle kind of way so that you can apply it into your life. It isn't an experience that's so vast you don't even know where to start and how to, translate that into your life, right? So I think that's a big part of if it doesn't make a change in your life, right, then you got to wonder what you're doing.
Beautifully said, Paul. So I put up a slide for the people who are watching us online, and it's just a kind of a promotional slide, but it kind of outlines on the Anahata Cosmic Breath and Cacao Planetarium Journey. And this is going to be Sunday, June 23rd here in Vancouver. If you haven't experienced the planetarium, well, that's an experience in and of itself. And if you haven't experienced cacao and breath work with Paul and Kathy, that's another experience itself. So these are compounding. And with the speed healing that Unite's bringing to the table, it's certainly going to be what I consider kind of an epic event of growth and transformation for everyone involved. And I'm just really looking forward to the event myself, and really glad that you're back at the planetarium doing the work. And for those who are curious about working with Kathy and Paul, where can they find you? If you give a plug maybe to your website, how they can reach out if people are interested in learning more about quantum touch, cacao, breath work, and the work that you do.
We have a website, quantumlife.ca. It's Canadian. Just quantum, QUANTUMLIFE. It's because it is a quantum life. Once we get deep into it, it's all quantum. And and that's really, it's just our little, we're just doing it, go there, find something. We'll be there. We have a newsletter, and a lot of people really enjoy our reflections on that. So you can always sign up for that. And it's always got our latest offering in it.
Some people say I don't read stuff, but when Kathy's stuff comes through, I get a cup of tea and I go somewhere quiet because yeah, they're liking it. And just real quickly, just a big shout out from the heart to Crystal and Shine.
Aww.
And we love doing this with Unite. And they're also have become real stewards of self-growth in Vancouver and do a lot of support, a lot of heavy lifting, their boots on the ground.
Yeah.
And can't say enough about how
send
much
them love, send them people, send them gratitude. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can visit them at unite.love. They do a lot of great work locally, from music to speed healing to different workshops and things of that nature. We're going to have them on the show in the near future as well. But yes, great. Thank you for that, Paul, giving them a shout out, because they are doing some really great work, and they're helping put together this event at the planetarium. So that's fantastic. But I just want to thank you guys so much. We got to wrap up here. We're running out of time. Thank you for being on the program. You've been listening to Conscious Living Radio here on CFRO 100.5 FM in Vancouver. You can always check us out on all the interwebs. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook. We don't really do much on Instagram, but maybe one day we will. But yeah, go ahead, because if you're listening to on the radio, you can also watch this on the different channels online. So I just want to thank everybody for your support and being part of the community, and keep living consciously. Thanks for joining us, Paul and Kathy.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, brother.
Thanks, Mark. And thank you.
My pleasure.
Out there.
Mhm.
Bless you all. Yeah.
Bye now.